This episode is fueled by the American Petroleum Institute. No matter your politics, no matter the debate, one thing is certain. America runs on affordable, reliable energy. America's policies must recognize that Americans benefit from making, moving, and improving the energy right here in America. Today, America's oil and natural gas industry supports nearly 11 million jobs and provides American energy to keep this nation strong. Learn how at api.org.
Gentlemen!
Oh, look at what we have here. Mr. Vice President, how are you, sir?
Good to see you, man. Always good to see you. Great to be back. And I come bearing gifts.
Oh, no. What do we have? Oh, duels.
Well, I told you Friday night is pizza and O'Doul's at my house. So I know you got to wait till you're off the air.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Open these.
You
but
can't, yeah.
We don't want this interview to go off the rails.
You want to keep it real safe.
It would be far too.
Is that all right?
Huh?
That's incredible.
Huh?
Yeah, it's an ice cold O'Doul's,
You think it's
too.
okay to open one?
Huh? I think it's okay.
I'm going to have one.
Thank you for that. I love it.
I love it.
Oh, man. So are you just having a blast here at the fair?
You know, we are. This is home court advantage for me.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like you're home, kind of the Midwest. This is your territory.
It is. Look, I grew up with a cornfield in my backyard, and you know, going to the 4-H fair in my home county was the high point of the summer. And but I have to tell you, my first time coming to the Iowa State Fair was in 2016.
Oh, yeah?
And I got to see the butter cow. I walked around with then Governor Terry Branstad, so nobody even knew I was there because he's a rock star here. But I got to tell you, this is really the best of America. It's just coming
It really
out.
is, isn't it? I mean,
Celebrating
just good
agriculture, but food, fellowship, and people have been, almost everybody's been incredibly welcoming.
Well, there's a little bit of politics going on.
No, that's
right?
all right.
You may have seen a few competitors walking around here,
Yeah,
too.
I may have. They might have too.
Yeah, exactly. You give a little, like a little trip on the back of the shoe when you see somebody walking by?
No, I'll be honest with you. I got a lot of respect for anybody that steps up.
Yeah.
For the highest office in the land, and men and women in this field. I'm looking forward to seeing them in Milwaukee.
Yeah, it's right, as we are too. So I got to ask you, first of all, the last time you were on our show, people were like, man, I can't believe Mike Pence is actually that funny. And like, for those of you who've
compared to you guys, it's a pretty low bar.
Fair enough. So, but for those of us who've known you for a while, we know you have a great sense of humor. And then I saw when you sent out a tweet, I guess last week, about wondering whether or not Donald Trump had the courage to show up to the debate. I was like, there it is.
Yeah.
There's the humor.
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, look, it's one of the great things about a campaign for president in a place like Iowa, to no less extent in New Hampshire, is people get to know you.
Yeah.
And, you know, Karen and I, we were literally on a Saturday morning last week in a barn.
Yeah.
In New Hampshire, and the opportunity for them to get to know us, who we really are. Look, I take the job seriously, but I try not to take myself in the job too seriously.
Yeah.
And I hope that's coming through.
Well, I think it is, because I think you also said last week that you're well known, but people don't know you well.
Yeah.
And that actually rang true with me, somebody who's been around you for 10 years, who knows you well, but people know sort of the Vice President, Mike Pence. Now they're getting a chance to see Mike Pence.
Yeah. I got to tell you, my favorite retweet, though, I saw there was some article, it was a satire that said Pence runs screaming from a rally when only one woman showed up. And I had to retweet it and say, okay, that one made me laugh.
Right?
Yeah,
I mean,
come on.
You got to have a sense of humor about this kind of thing, right?
Well, you do. I mean, look, it's a real serious time in the country, but, you know, I think the chance for people to get to know us, get to know that, you know, we love this country. And frankly, I was on the seacoast in New Hampshire not long ago. We had a little luncheon, you know, and had some lobster. It was really great. About 10 or 15 people, and at the end of it, a guy walked up to me when we walked outside, and he said, is this work for you? Because it seems like you're having a pretty good time.
Yeah, right?
I said, this didn't work for me at all. I said, look, I love people. I love the American people. And I don't like politics every day.
Yeah.
But a chance to be out among the American people,
Well,
always encouraging.
Listen, so the last time we spoke, you assured our audience
Yeah.
that you were going to meet the thresholds and you were going to get to the
I did.
debate stage. And within 10, 15 days, you were there. You're going to be on that debate stage.
Because I was on Ruthless. Come on.
a man of your word.
You guys put me over the top.
We will take that, by the way. Hey, Wolf, make sure you make that an ad. That's good. That's good. But in all seriousness, so you got it done. I got to imagine everything you've been through here over the last couple of years, you are really looking forward to getting on that stage.
Oh, come on. Put me in, coach.
Yeah.
You know, I'm ready to go. Look, I'm really glad, we had an outpouring of support. But it's about 9 weeks that we were able to garner some 40,000 contributors. In fact, we think there's a possibility we're going to qualify for the second debate before we get to the first debate. The support continues to roll in. We're not offering kickbacks, gift cards, even soccer tickets. I mean, we're just asking people for support. And I think the thing that we've heard over and over again, I've heard it here at the Iowa State Fair, is people saying, look, we see you as the most consistent conservative in the field with a long record of commitment to the conservative agenda. And a lot of people just were supporting us, saying, we need you on that stage. Yeah. And they want to hear that. They want to hear that perspective. But people keep asking me how I'm preparing for it.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was exactly the question I was going to have.
Yeah, I knew, because I saw your note.
Well, I mean, in just a day since we've been here, we've probably run into you like 3-4 times. So you're definitely putting in the footwork, talking to a lot of folks. But when you're talking to the people in Iowa, what's the top concern you feel like? What's their top of their minds?
Well, here, a lot of people stop me and talk about agriculture. I mean, the truth is, the Biden administration has literally dropped the ball on expanding American exports. I mean, we did that U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement, which was a huge win for American agriculture. But we got tough with China, but we brought them to the table and got what was called a phase one trade deal. But Biden's dropped the ball on that, and China hasn't lived up to a fraction of what they committed to in January 2020. So, there's a lot of concern about the Farm Bill. Josh, it's moving through the Congress right now, and I just said, look, if I'm president of the United States, it's going to be free trade with free nations. I'm going to lean into free trade agreements with the UK, with Japan, even with the EU. And agriculture depends on, what we grow here, we sell all over the world. So I hear that a lot, but bottom line is I just hear people are struggling in the economy. And all this happy talk about Bidenomics that you hear coming out of the White House, nobody's buying it. I think it's like what Groucho Marx used to say, who are you going to believe, me or your lying eyes? Right?
That's exactly right.
I'd like to get back to how you're preparing for the debate. And we at the Ruthless Variety program think about politics in sports terms. One of our favorite movies is Hoosiers. And so I'm thinking you're walking into this.
My favorite movie.
I mean, look at him buttering you up.
So
Can I tell you one thing about Hoosiers, though?
Yeah. Please.
True story. I just put this in a little book that I wrote with my daughter. Karen and I had just gotten married. And they were advertising on the radio that they were making some movie at Hinkle Fieldhouse. And if you just put on old-fashioned clothes, you could go watch them shoot the movie. And we said, what movie are they going to make at Hinkle Fieldhouse?
No, you didn't go. You didn't go.
We didn't go. It's like my favorite movie of all time.
You could have been in it.
And we lived like 5 blocks from Hinkle. So it was one of the, I actually end the chapter of the book saying, okay, and next time go to the shoot. But anyway, Hoosiers, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, it's one of our favorite movies too.
Oh,
and if you're thinking about this debate as if you're up against South Bend Central, what are you doing beforehand? Are you sending Mark Short in to measure the hoop just to make sure it's exactly to measurement? What sorts of things are you doing to get ready for the 23rd?
We're doing a little prep. I've had a little bit of experience with nationally televised debates.
Of course.
As it turns out.
Yeah, and let me be clear, that debate with Kamala Harris, they had a plexiglass wall, but
I'm surprised you survived that, Mr. Vice President.
It wasn't tall enough to stop a fly. But look, I do think you prepare for these things. I think studying the record of the people around you, taking time to make sure we understand the latest stumblings of the Biden administration, their failed policies. But for me, I feel like I've been preparing for Milwaukee my entire life. From the time I joined the Reagan Revolution as a young man, to my first few attempts at Congress, to being elected to Congress, being a conservative leader in the House, driving a Republican president a little crazy because I fought against the big spenders in my own party.
It was a tough deal to deal with.
And then going home to Indiana, balancing budgets, cutting taxes, and then being a vice president. So, what I always try and remember in those moments is that while I think it's important when you're on stage with a number of other talented people that you're holding them accountable for their positions, that you're drawing the contrast. I never forget that we're actually talking to the American people, and my hope is that they'll hear our vision, they'll hear our passion, and that's who I'm going to be talking to while I'm talking about these other people.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Vice President, you're talking about accountability.
Someday you guys will call me Mike.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
We could be best friends. I could have a sleepover in your guest room, and I think I'd still call you Mr. Vice President.
You actually can't do it. You can't do it. You're hardwired. I get it. I respect that.
But speaking about accountability, I as an observer of this primary, I think I've noticed like a lot of the candidates have been, as these indictments have come out on former President Trump, a lot of equivocating and qualifying statements. And I think in the last indictment on the January 6th and post-election stuff, you spoke very plainly about the president being advised by crackpot lawyers, which I just love because I felt like it cut through a lot of the noise. Do you feel like there aren't enough people in this primary that are willing to speak like simple, honest truths?
Well, people can be confident I'm going to continue to speak boldly.
Yeah.
I had no right to overturn the election. And the fact that the former president and many of those same allies and their allies in the media continue to tell many good, decent Americans that I had that right. It's something we're going to take on very directly. Because look, the people of this country love our Constitution. And I think when they hear the story of what the Constitution requires, what my duty was that day, and if they think twice about it, they're going to realize there's almost no idea more un-American than the notion that any one person could decide what electoral college votes to count. The presidency belongs to the American people and the American people alone. And we're going to speak boldly and plainly about that. But also, I want to be clear, elections are about the future. And the differences I have with my former running mate go far beyond that day. And in many ways, he made a promise to the American people, and I think adding me to the ticket may have been part of that he was going to govern as a conservative, and we did. I'm incredibly proud of the record and what our partners in the House and in the Senate made possible in those first 2 years. Now I hear no such promise. I hear backing away from American leadership in the world, unwilling to talk about confronting the national debt with reform, backing away from a commitment to the right to life. So I honestly believe those are the kind of choices and contrasts. So people know that while we continue to have very strong difference on this issue of that tragic day, and I'll make my case to the American people, there's also differences about where we want to take the party and ultimately take the country.
So give us a couple of examples in terms of what you've heard out of not only the former president, but Ron DeSantis and others about, failing to observe some of the things that you think need to be addressed,
right,
and where you would take things in contrast.
Well, we're living in a very dangerous time in the world today. I mean, because of the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, because of President Biden's relentless effort to cut military spending. And that, there's a lot of talk about that. Frankly, I think it was Republicans in the Congress that staved that off and held the line. But frankly, we're poised right now for another 1% cut, and what they've added hasn't even kept up with inflation. At a time when China's floating balloons over strategic parts of the United States, they just sent a Russia-China armada across the coast of Alaska. They're buzzing our aircraft in the South China Sea. They're cutting off our ships in the Asia Pacific. And now more than ever, we need to make it clear that we are going to be the leader of the free world. We're going to be the arsenal of democracy. And One of the reasons why when we came in 2016, I said that our job was to rebuild the military. I actually think our challenge today is to build a military fitted to the challenges of the 21st century. We're still the most powerful military in the world, but the trajectory that China is on today could change that, and it could make the world much more dangerous as a result. So I think we build up that military. We continue to stand with our allies, stand up to our enemies. I think the world becomes a much more quiet place when we have a Republican in the White House who knows that.
Yeah. Well, last serious question before we get into something that's less serious. How much of your strategy is about, because every election at some point comes down to whether or not they think a candidate can do the job. And people can make their own judgments about different candidates and whether or not they can. Obviously, given the job that you did as vice president, but not only that, as a governor and as a member of leadership in the United States House of Representatives, you can clear that hurdle by anybody's bar.
Thank you, John.
How much of that goes into what you're trying to communicate to people?
Well, we want the American people to know we're ready day one.
There it is. Yeah.
That because of the experience I had as a vice president, representing our country at home and around the world, on Capitol Hill when we moved that pro-growth agenda, because I was a governor that understands the vital role that states play in the life of our nation, and because I was a rabble-rousing House conservative fighting against runaway spending for 12 years.
You were a tough out, by the way.
Look, I know.
You were a tough deal.
I actually was. Look, I know how Congress works. I know how it doesn't work. You know, I don't know everybody in the House Republican majority, but everybody I know is a committee chairman.
Yeah.
Okay? I know the role of states, and I want the American people to know that I'm going to be ready day one to know what to do, and just as important, know who to do it with to get this country turned around. You know, an administration is not one person. It's the team that you build around you. And I think conveying to people that I know we would be able to assemble a team of principled, experienced conservatives. It would do everything from restoring confidence in equal treatment under the law at the Justice Department, to driving the political correctness out of the Pentagon.
Smug would be good at that.
Our economy moving
Smug, that might be a good role for Smug.
Is that him?
The political correctness piece.
We'll do it. We'll turn you loose.
I think that might be good.
We'll turn you loose.
So, last thing.
Yeah.
Last time we saw you today, you were coming out of the back end of the pork tent here, and you've been cooking for hours.
Well, I was, yeah.
I mean, like you were really working hard.
No, I was. No, they wanted it just to be a photo op, and I like to grill. They literally said to me, they said, that's good, you're fine. I said, these are not done. I'm a guy. I can't leave uncooked meat on the grill.
It's literally what he did. He came out and he's like, I spent a lot of time in there. You can be confident of their product.
Yeah. I'll tell you, it's great though. Really, it's these, you know, honestly, food is such a great, great part of the state fair.
Yes.
And I've already had a lemon shake-up. I haven't got my corn dog yet, but I will. That's the table minimum.
We do have one more, very quick.
Yeah.
Because last time you got out of our studio without getting the fourth question, which is thinking about the entire animal kingdom. And on the Ruthless Variety program, we consider ourselves something of an animal fighting podcast. So think of the entire animal kingdom.
Yeah.
Mano a mano.
Yes.
What is the biggest animal you could take?
The biggest animal.
Bare hands. Bare hands.
I can take the 800-pound gorilla.
Yeah. I love it. Vice President Mike Pence, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time. Thanks for the Iowa State Fair and everything else.
Thanks for being here. Congratulations on all your success.
Thank you very much.
Good.
Thank you.
This episode is fueled by the American Petroleum Institute. No matter your politics, no matter the debate, one thing is certain. America runs on affordable, reliable energy. America's policies must recognize that Americans benefit from making, moving, and improving the energy right here in America. Today, America's oil and natural gas industry supports nearly 11 million jobs and provides American energy to keep this nation strong. Learn how at api.org.